Well, good morning, and thanks for tuning in to Sonoma County's Talking. I'm Nate Campbell, and this morning I'm joined by Crista Chelemedos. She is the Executive Director with Senior Advocacy Services. They have their 27th annual Pick of the Vine wine tasting and auction gala benefit coming up. Crista, thanks for joining me this morning.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Now, the Senior Advocacy Services, what is the goal of the group?
Well, Senior Advocacy Services is a HICAP and Ombudsman. Now you ask, what the heck does that mean? HICAP actually stands for Health Insurance Counseling Advocacy Program, which is basically Medicare Counseling. Our Ombudsman program actually visits people who reside in long-term care facilities, and we help advocate on behalf of the residents.
And what services specifically do you offer?
Well, we basically give anyone who is Medicare eligible free counseling. You can come to any of our sites in the 6 area counties, or you can call us on the phone, or we can set up appointments with you in the office, and we will advise you on Medicare. And basically, as we all know, that Medicare is very complex. It's not something that the regular person actually understands. You have so many choices. And so with our counseling, we never sell anything. So you know you're getting unbiased information from us.
And how is the Senior Advocacy Services supported?
Well, we are actually supported through government grants. That's how we are able to remain unbiased in our help that we give you through the Medicare and also through the Ombudsman program. It's the same way. However, of course, we need the community support. The community is critical to us being able to deliver these services. And so, obviously, Pick of the Vine for us is big. It really helps fund the organization and backfill, because as we all know, the government has had a lot of cuts in the last few years. And so we've been able to really get the community to come out and enjoy this wonderful and festive event, and that helps us to provide these services free of charge.
On Sonoma County's Talking, I'm Nate Campbell. This morning I'm joined by Crista Chelemedos, the Executive Director for Senior Advocacy Services. Now, when were you created?
We were actually founded in 1980, so we've been around a long time.
And are there any restrictions on age?
Well, basically you have to be Medicare eligible, so that doesn't always come with age, but generally you have to be 65 or older. Now, for the Ombudsman program, it actually has to do with where you reside. So if you are in assisted living or a skilled nursing facility, then you are eligible for our services.
And will you help with Medicare?
That is all HICAP does. We are Medicare experts.
All right. Now, the Senior Advocacy Services, your mantra is that you are an ombudsman organization. Tell us, what is an ombudsman?
An ombudsman basically serves as a client advocate. We help people who live in assisted living have a voice. As you know, if you're living in assisted living, you are usually needing some support in your life. Maybe you've gotten older and you're getting some help with your daily activities. And so our job is to make sure that you actually have a voice in these assisted living facilities. It can be challenging when the person who's caring for you, if you have issues with them, and we will help you to basically support you in communication. We also help protect against elder abuse. We are the elder abuse investigators for the community. So we're the first line of defense.
Okay, and how do I know elder and dependent adult abuse when I see it?
Well, you don't have to know it. Basically, what you need to do is to just suspect it. If you just have, when you see someone, if they are behaving differently, if you're just feeling like you're seeing something that just doesn't feel right to you, then call us. That's our job, is to come in and find out what's going on. A lot of people living in these homes really have a fear of communication, because you don't want to complain about the person who is caring for you, because they might not, in fact, care for you better if you complain. So they really don't want to say something that might make it worse. But also, our seniors are very strong. They come from a very, very strong generation, and you don't complain. So you suffer in silence. And that's not necessarily always the best solution, because often it gets very bad.
On Sonoma County's Talking, I'm Nate Campbell, and this morning I'm joined by Crista Chelemedos, the Executive Director for Senior Advocacy Services. Now, when I call, can I remain anonymous?
You absolutely can. All of the services are open to any type of communication that you'd like to have. We can't necessarily come back and tell you what has transpired in us working with the person that you've called about, because we honor their anonymity also. So you're welcome to just call, tell us about who the person is, where you think the issue is. If you happen to also know someone who lives in the community, maybe it's your neighbor, and lately she's coming out to get her newspaper in her robe, and it's noon or 1 or 2, and she's never been one of those people, or you don't see her anymore, or just things that are feeling funny. Or a lot of people, strangers, have moved into her home all of a sudden, and she seems to be acting differently. You can also call Adult Protective Services, and they are basically our sister organization for people who live in the community.
And how are these facilities regulated?
The assisted living facilities have oversight through community care licensing, and people who live in skilled nursing have the Department of Public Health. And so their job is to come in and make sure that these facilities are compliant with the Title 22 and Title 42 regulations, which really are not what are important for the community, but that they do have regulations. But in assisted living, they're only required to come once every 5 years. We visit these facilities on a regular basis and often are on a first-name basis with most of the clients. We have a huge group of trained and certified ombudsmen who are volunteers. And so they really develop relationships with the residents who live in assisted living so that they can feel comfortable with talking about and supporting them in any kind of thing that they may need help with.
Now, does Medicare or Medi-Cal pay for assisted living?
It does not. That's one of the challenges for people who who are taking either Social Security or that's all their total income. Assisted living can be very expensive, and so it is not covered by Medicare. Medicare only covers in skilled nursing after you've had a qualifying 3-day stay in the hospital. So you have to go to the hospital first. They will discharge you to skilled nursing, not assisted living, but skilled nursing, and then they will only pay for 100 days of care. At which point you either go to private pay, or which can be very expensive, up to $15,000 a month, until all your assets are depleted, and then at which point you can become Medi-Cal eligible. But that's a pretty tough situation at that point.
On Sonoma County's Talking, I'm Nate Campbell. This morning I'm joined by Crista Chelemedos, Executive Director for Senior Advocacy Services. Now, Crista, what is the difference between assisted living and board and care homes?
Basically, those are the same things. It's different nomenclature.
And what happens when an elder runs out of money? Are they thrown out on the streets?
Well, that can be a very challenging situation because these places are private pay. So on each individual case, it will depend on what their living situation is. They cannot be discharged without what's called a safe discharge. But that is where the ombudsman come in, because often the facilities, if you can't pay, you can't stay there. And so we can help with that transition either to a different type of situation, maybe in a skilled nursing facility under Medi-Cal, assuming their physical self allows them to be eligible, or we will work with making sure there's some other type of living situation. That's a big, big job for the ombudsman, but it does happen.
The pick of the Vine Fundraiser. Tell us about it.
Well, we are so proud of this event. It's been 27 years, and we've really metamorphosized over the years. And, it started off as a little fun thing, and, a few wineries would come in, and we have blossomed to 32 wineries and 16 restaurants. And these are all wine road wineries, and so a lot of you have been aware or participated in Passport or the barrel tasting that was recently occurred on the 2 weekends, and it's the same wineries, and I believe there's hundreds of them, you would have a heck of a time driving to all those wineries, even over 2 weekends. So we have 32 all in one building, and you can have, for the price of the entrance, you basically can taste from any of them. And believe me, it is a great evening, and there's a lot of wine. And you just have most of our participants come back year after year because they can't make it through all 32 wineries.
And so the Pick of the Vine fundraiser, tell me when, where, what, and why.
Well, it will be April 5th, and it'll be from 6 to 9 p.m. We are holding it at the Wells Fargo Atrium, and this is our second year there. We had so much fun last year, and it was just a really great and beautiful place conducive to this type of an event. So we, of course, the why is because we really need to help pay our way, and this will do it for us. I always love the idea of combining our charitable giving with our entertainment budgets. As an individual, what better way to really make our dollars go far and, in the meantime, help really support a good cause?
On Sonoma County's Talking, I'm Nate Campbell. This morning I've been joined by Crista Chelemedos, the Executive Director for Senior Advocacy Services. She's talking about the Pick of the Vine fundraiser that's coming up on April 5th from 6 to 9 at the Wells Fargo Center for the Arts. Now, Crista, where can people buy tickets?
Well, you're welcome. There any way that you think might work, which would be, if you prefer the phone, just call us up at 526-4108. Or you can go to www.sasnb.org, which basically stands for Senior Advocacy Services North Bay.org. So SASNB.
Crista, thanks so much for joining me this morning.
Wonderful. Thank you again so much for having us, and we hope we get to see everyone at our event.